this video, we're going to talk about how to harvest cut flowers from your cottage garden, and we're going to make a loose country cottage bouquet, which you can either keep for yourself or sell to make a bit of money on the side. Looking at the flowers in the garden right now, you wouldn't believe I've harvested 12 bouquets from here in 2 days. 12 bouquets. You could fill every room in your house. You can still have some left over to sell. So, it's a really nice thing to be able to do. But even if you do this, the great thing about the cottage garden is it regenerates by being harvested. If you think about the purpose of a flower, it is to grow a seed. Once the seed pod has grown, the whole journey of the flower is over. The reason for its being and its existence is over. It'll put all its energy into making the seed and then it will die. So if you pick the flower before it generates the seed, then the plant has to produce more flowers. I know a lot of you know this already, but as many people, if not more people, don't know this, which is why I do these videos. Now, I harvested 12 bouquets worth because I actually had 2 retailers I'm selling my flowers with. I'm looking at doing it as a bit of a side hustle. Okay, so I'm selling sort of, I don't know, 50 to 100 pounds worth of flowers a week out of my garden. That's not bad for something you enjoy and we're going to do anyway. But of course, you don't have to sell your flowers at all. You can just enjoy them at home. So this video is really going to show you how I kind of harvest the plants, the flowers, prepare them, and then put together a very loose country cottage, informal bouquet. I'm not a big fan of contrived, matching, all same colour palette bouquets. I like things to look as though I just walked along the lane and swiped a bunch of flowers, have them really naturalistic looking, and I'm going to show you how to make one of those today. I will put more stages and photographs on my website blog, so I'll link that in the description below this video. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Now, if you do, however, want to sell your flowers as a side hustle, or even if you're looking forward and thinking maybe this is something I would see in my future, a career as a florist, a bouquet, making bouquets, growing my own flowers, then I have a book for you called The Cut Flower Planner. You can kind of write down your bouquet recipes. So as you learned, you will learn what flowers go better together, what flowers flower at the same time, the same season, what colours look nice together. So anyway, in that book, you can work all that out. You can draw your own bouquets. You can keep a track of your prices, set your prices. You can keep track of customers, suppliers. You can plan social media posts and campaigns. And all of this will start you on the right track and kind of help you build a formula of what works for you if you want to grow flowers as a side hustle. So I'll link that planner in the description below as well, or you can visit my blog, as I said, where I show you how to make the bouquet in more detail, and there will be a link to the planner there also. And if you like the idea of making money from your garden, but you don't want to sell cut flowers, you want to sell something else, maybe some produce, I do have a video on how all the ways you can make money from your garden, and I'll link that below as well. Number 1, how to harvest. Well, you need to harvest with some clean snips and sharp snips because you don't want to damage your plant with a blunt instrument. And you want to harvest down to a branching node if possible, because you don't want to unnecessarily cut off another potential flower later on in the season. And also, you want a good length on your flower, as best a length as you can get. You don't want to harvest in the middle of the heat of the day when your plants are flagging, because they may not recover even when they take a drink of water. And yarrow is a classic example of that. If you harvest that in the middle of the day and it flops, it will not recondition. It will not perk up. Honeywort, on the other hand, will recondition itself and perk back up once it's rehydrated. But in general, morning or afternoon, not in the heat of the day. Right, number 2, what to harvest. Well, what to harvest, anything that kind of regenerate, anything that's going to set seed and can regenerate. Again, some of these things you're going to have to figure out. But as an example, roses, You don't want them to get their buds on, because once they have their buds and they start, sorry, not their buds, the flower buds are fine. Once they, after flowering, they set a rose bud, a seed bud, a hip, couldn't think of the word then, and you don't want them to do that because you want them to keep flowering. So you have to look at the type of flower you've got as well. Some flowers only flower once, so don't buy those if you want to have cottage garden flowers. Some flowers may flower, some roses may flower twice. That's okay, you can harvest them once. I've got one in my borders, and then you can harvest it again when those buds come into flower. Other roses will just repeat flower. So you really, if you want to be maximizing your picking of roses, then you want ones that repeat flower. I'll maybe do another video on roses. Sweet peas are another obvious one that benefit from repeat harvesting. They will set seed very quickly if you don't harvest those flowers, and they put out a lot of flowers, so it's an absolutely great one if you want loads of cut flowers. And of course, they're super scented as well. Snapdragons also will branch and repeat flower. So lots of things you can pick and still have them growing in the garden. In fact, they will thrive and reflower from being picked. So you're getting flowers for free. Even perennials like a geranium, when they've finished flowering, you can cut those back and they will give you more blooms, a second flush later in the season. So now you've got your harvested stems, you need to clean them. So this is stage 2. So you clean off all the lower leaves and any kind of branching stems that really are not that are too low down to really benefit the bouquet or the vase that you're putting them in. And you really should do this even if you're just doing these flowers for yourself, because you don't want the leaves in the water low enough down that they're in the water. They will just contaminate the water and they'll make it turn green and dirty, and we don't want that. We want nice clean vases. And even if you are making an arrangement like this, when the stems are cleaned, they don't get in a tangle in the bucket, etc. So they're much easier to sort of pick up and take out of the vase without snapping or breaking or catching on the other flowers that you have in the bucket as well. And it makes it easier to hold in your hand like this when you're threading them through with nice clean stems. Number 4. So conditioning flowers is just the next step, and it's a way of making the plants very hydrated, ready for use, especially if you're going to sell them as cut flowers. If you're going to sell them as cut flowers, people often condition them in a bucket of cool, clean water overnight, and you will see the difference in a flower that's been conditioned, because the stems will be much stiffer and easier to handle in a bouquet. Now, of course, if you're just going to put them in a vase in your front room or in your kitchen, they will just condition in the vase of clean water. But that's just what conditioning does. It just rehydrates a plant, because when you cut it, it goes into stress and it could flop, which is also the reason you need to pick in the morning or the evening and not in the heat of the day. But condition it, give it a good long drink, and snip the ends off. You snip the ends off your nice clean stems as well, so that the flower has a fresh cut to draw up that clean water. Keeping your flowers hydrated and in a conditioned state will, of course, optimize the length that they will last in the vase or with the customer if you're selling them. So the next stage is to make the bouquet, and I may put some more details on my blog, which I'll link below, which is on my website, of how I do this with maybe some still photographs. But in general, you can, of course, arrange this straight into your vase of choice. But if you're doing them in your hand, say for a customer, or you just like to do them this way, then just keep your hand quite loose. Obviously, the cleaned stems will make it easier for you to sort of slide stems in and out. But think about an informality, which means you don't want everything to be symmetrical. You don't want everything to be the same height. And I know this is going against the fashion of the day, but you don't want everything on the same colour palette. If you want to get a naturalistic feel, you want to have flowers that feel as though you just walk down a country lane and sort of pick them and put them in a jam jar. And so, you know, to sort of really overthink the colours and the symmetrical and make it symmetrical and everything the same height just isn't going to work, which is why, as you can see here, I've got the cornflowers and the cow parsley sort of standing up, and I've got some asymmetrical bits of foliage that kind of droop and dangle, and you know, the whole thing just looks really natural and casual. And really, that's pretty much it. And then you sort of just go round and spin it round in your hand, and you can see here I'm sort of weaving in this Canterbury bell so that it kind of locks in with the other stems that I have in my hand. And that's what I say about keeping your hand just that little bit loose so that you can feed them in and out, or take them out if you didn't like the result, just like I did then. And then you just keep working around till you're happy with it, mixing in bits of foliage with bits of obviously your flowers. Make sure your best statement flowers don't get lost in the bouquet. Don't over fiddle or overthink the bouquet, because that's when it gets really tight and starts to look ugly and contrived. And then when you're done, you just need to tie it off either with an elastic band or some string, and then just snip the ends so the ends are obviously even and at the same length, and also so that there's a fresh cut for taking up that water, because you're either going to put them in a bucket to keep conditioning until they get to the customer, or you're going to put them in your vase. If you have like a leaf obscuring one of your statement plants, you can just pick it out. You don't have to remove the whole branch, just pick out the leaf that's in the way, so that you can just refine your bouquet in that way rather than sort of starting all over again. All right, so now that we've got our flowers in a vase or in water ready to sell, how do we keep them going? How do we tell our customers how to keep them going? Well, ideally, you need to change the water every day. And when you change the water, just add a little new snip to the bottom of the stems. Just cut a millimetre or two off the stems so they can take up that fresh water through a fresh wound. And remove any plants that have died. I mean, all the flowers will have a different vase life, and you don't want the dead ones to remain in with the fresh ones. Keep them out of direct sunlight. I mean, if you have to have them in direct sunlight, if that's where you particularly want them, then just bear in mind they're not going to last as long in direct sunlight as, say, in a cool spot where they're not getting direct sunlight. And finally, if you want to sell them, especially if you're just doing them as a side hobby, I mean, a side hustle, I'm not really obviously a flower farmer, so I don't know how to sell commercially, but I would start, obviously, if you've lived somewhere all your life and you have good connections, then I would definitely start there with friends and family. And you can do obviously market stalls. Just pick them very carefully, because you don't want to waste a whole day on a market stall where it's not really a very good place for you to sell flowers. So obviously do your research. Also, out of town shops or small town shops, market town shops, those kinds of boutiquey places would love to buy your flowers and sell your flowers. And even dried flowers, maybe even through the winter time. So, and then just pick like one or two favourite shops that you have a good relationship with, just to sell a few bouquets a week if you're doing this as a side hustle, of course. And as I say, I have one where I'm selling sort of 6 a week, and then another one where I'm selling 4, so about 10 in total, making me about £100 a week just selling flowers that I have to harvest anyway, and that would actually just have to go on the compost heap. I absolutely hate harvesting flowers and not having the space for them, so I might as well make money from them. And then that's it. That's really it. It's as simple as that. It's as easy as that. The hardest part is really growing and seeding and growing all your plants. I'm going to do a video on what I'm going to be sowing now, because for flowering next year, because you do need to think about that as well. Not everything flowers in the same year. So my Canterbury bells, for instance, I'm going to have to sow now in June to get them to flower next June. All right, so that's it. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please subscribe, click the notification bell and share with your friends, of course, and also visit my website at www.jillbrotherton.com, and also share your own tips in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.